So welcome to Hudson Lighting. I'm going to take you on a manufacturing tour and show you how all these wonderful lights are made in-house here in Coulsdon, Surrey. So our manufacturing process starts here on the mezzanine floor, and in this space we've got all of our electronics going on. We have these two boards as an example. This is our protection circuit board and this one's our LED board. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste these and get this machine to place all of our components. So now I'm going to paste this board. So I just literally just apply solder paste on here, and the solder paste is essentially a flux with little tiny solder balls actually suspended in the flux itself, and these solder balls are with the flux, they're all sticky. There we go, there's our board. And the idea is that the components will actually stick to the board itself. So now I'm going to place this in our pick and place machine, and I'm going to get this going. This is a board that's had all its components actually placed on. The next step at the moment is we have to actually hand place the little pins that go on here, and then finally it goes through that SMD oven just behind there. Let's go downstairs and go and see all the rest of the manufacturing process. So downstairs we start with raw materials like this. This is solid copper, which is a really beautiful material, and it's really, really heavy. About 5% of our materials are copper, brass and bronze, and the rest of what we do is really aluminium like this, and there is a huge weight difference between the two. The aluminium that we use is aircraft grade, so it's 6082 T6. What happens with the material is it's fed in to our bar pusher here. This lovely little piece of kit here feeds our bars in onto this little sloop, and it comes across and feeds that into the lathe, into the end of the lathe here, ready to start being processed by this machine. So the way the lathe actually works is what it's doing is it's taking that bar and spinning it, and then there's cutting tools coming down and actually cutting into the material. And we get beautiful parts like this and this coming out. And so that's our first step of our CNC machining right there. So our parts start off pretty shiny like this, and what we do is we put them in what's called a vibratory tumbler. So this tumbler has this kind of media that looks a little bit like Toblerone. This goes round and vibrates around to create this finish on here, which helps any powder coat adherence and also takes off any sharp edges that the lathe missed. Any aluminium parts are loading up onto this titanium jig. From there, what we do is we run them through an anodized process. So here we've got a etch acid that removes the oxidized outside layer. Then it goes into this tank, which is our sulfuric anodizing tank, and it basically runs an electrical current that's 16 volts up to 100 amps to create a hard corrosion resistant layer on the outside of the aluminium to stop it from going back to its mineral form. Next up, we dye the parts. The parts being dyed are a visual control to help us identify if the parts are actually anodized correctly, and also they add a sense of, if you chip a bit of powder coat, there's black underneath rather than silver. So it's kind of like an extra appearance saving thing as well. And then finally we seal the parts in our sealing tank over here, which is sat at about 96 degrees centigrade. And there's our sealed parts coming out there. You see they're nice and black. All of our parts are then accumulated in this space, and at the moment we're trying to convert over to these storage trays away from the green and red bins. It's a little bit of an improvement really, but it helps us keep count. But they sit in this space until we have an order to pull. And the order that we pull is shown on this screen, which I'm going to show you now. So all of our orders that need to be picked are shown here. You can see the customer name, the type of light and the finish. And that's all we really need to know at this stage here. You even see where it says copper, so we know when we need to pull that kind of finish as well. For powder coating, what we do is we take two parts or several parts, screw them together because they cover the threads. We don't want any powder coat to actually get in the threads themselves. They're just hung by like a copper plated hook like this. And that goes on this bar just here. And simply, all we do is just spray from one direction. Now what happens is the powder coat is applied electrostatically and it's completely stuck to the backside, even though we just sprayed just the front, which makes it really easy to powder coat. Now, if I got this colour completely wrong, the really useful thing is I can just use air and just blow this powder back off again and start again. This isn't actually adhered until it goes into our ovens over here. All of the parts are then taken out from the oven and placed in these trays, and we have different trays for different lights, and they're placed on this rail system to be laser marked on this fibre laser over here. So one of my purchases during COVID for the bounce back loan was this wonderful cable cut and strip machine. Before we had this machine, I used to have a tape measure and string out the tape measure to work out how long the cable needed to be. It was a real painful process. This machine makes it easy because all you do is you just set the length on this, press cut, and it just cuts the length for you. And there we have our cable already pre-stripped with all of our ends actually pre-stripped as well. Then what we do is we tin the ends of the cables. They just go in there and go in there, and you get really beautifully tinned ends. Really simple thing that actually gives a nice finish. So next thing is that we have to put our protection circuit in this little jig up here, take our solder and solder on the two pads up here, and bring our lead in. And that's our protection circuit actually now soldered onto this board. So the next thing we need to do is actually injection mold this. So this just goes into this little jig. That goes in there, close. We just pop this injection mold open. Should be real. There we go. Our cable is now moulded in, as well as our protection circuit, all moulded in together. Finally, it's all taken and all assembled into the finished fitting. Which then gets tested on the end and tested in a water tube as well. So this is how we actually assemble the lights, how it all goes together, and also the testing that we take it through.